All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So, before we went on break, we were talking about the end of the Civil War. We're talking about how Robert E. Lee basically surrendered to Grant at the Appomattox Courthouse. And with Lee surrendering, being the top general in the Confederacy, that is a signal that, hey, it's almost the end, you know. And you're going to see what this one guy, John Wilkes Booth, how he tries to help the Confederacy get a new second breath, into the fight, and how his plans change into how he ultimately kills Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. Now, the objective today, we're going to analyze the plan to kidnap Lincoln, because that's the thing. His plan originally was not to kill Lincoln, it was to kidnap him, and we're going to talk about that. Excuse me. We're going to examine the events leading to the assassination of Lincoln, and if there was anything that could be done to stop it. And lastly, we're going to create an argument on whether Major Rathbone could have done anything more to stop Booth. Okay, so we're going to be talking about that. Now, here's the only sad thing about this lesson that you here watching this will not be able to see for yourself in class, is that during class, I actually show you step by step what Booth did, and I'll go through that when we get to that point. I'll be like, okay, there's, this is what I did, and things like that in class. Okay. So here is your warm-up picture. The question's asking you to analyze this picture, okay, and tell me what is going on here. Okay. Now, here's the thing, like I told the people in class, if you know the name of some of these people in here, be sure to mention that. If you're saying, oh, that's this so-and-so person, the one's jumping out. So-and-so person is the one who's screaming, looks like they're screaming. So-and-so person is the one who's like hunched over. If you know the person's name, write them down. If you don't know, that's fine. If you don't know who these people are, just be able to still tell me, this guy's doing this guy's doing that, this woman's doing this. Okay, so break down this picture and explain to me what is happening. Okay, so pause the video, write your response, okay, because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. So, the guy you saw jumping, that was John Wilkes Booth, okay? Now, here's the thing that's pretty interesting when it comes to history. If you said the name John Booth, some people would be like, who? But if you say John Wilkes Booth, people, oh yeah, the guy who killed Lincoln. Same thing with Lee Harvey Oswald. If you just say Lee Oswald, people be like, who? We tend to remember these killers' names by their whole name. Lee Harvey Oswald, John Wilkes Booth. Now, Booth was an actor. Very, very good actor. He was also a Southern sympathizer, which meant he felt sympathy for the South and understood why they were fighting. And in his heart and soul, he truly believed that African Americans should not be free. They should be slaves. There is a reason why the South is so prosperous and so rich, that you can't free these slaves or else the South is going to lose all its money. They won't be able to sustain. Okay. And the other thing is, he's from the state of Maryland. He's not even actually from like Georgia, or Louisiana or anything like that. No, he's from Maryland. Now, the Booth family, these guys are all actors. And the thing is, they're not just famous in the United States. They're famous around the world. Now, the thing is, you have to remember this, guys. At this time, there's no electricity. None. And yet these guys have gone around the world and performed at various theaters for kings and noblemen and things like that. So people know who the Booth family are. And what makes them distinct is that they're excellent Shakespearean actors. And if you've ever read any type of Shakespeare, even a paragraph, you might be going, huh? I don't get this. Just imagine saying those lines in a play in front of hundreds of people, if not thousands. So it takes some skill to be a Shakespearean actor, and that family was good. Now, Booth realized, like a lot of Americans, that the Confederacy, the South, they're on the verge of losing. They've lost so many major battles, and things are getting worse and worse and worse. So he goes to Montreal, Canada, and there he meets some Confederate agents who are telling him, well, hey, if you really want to help us out, you should do this, or do this, or do this. You need to do something to help us, if you're serious. If you're not serious, then get out of here. Don't waste our time. So Booth goes back to Maryland. He's like, okay, I got to do something. And it hits him. I'm going to kidnap Abraham Lincoln. Now, again, the plan was not to kill him. It was to kidnap him. Once they kidnapped Lincoln, they were going to exchange him for all the soldiers that the Confederacy had lost that were basically prisoners of war. So we're talking, if not tens of thousands, 100,000s of soldiers. So he's like, if I capture Lincoln and I trade him for all these soldiers who are prisoners of war, they get released, they're going to want to fight, and then this will give the South that extra boost that they need to fight again, and then we'll be right back into this war. So that's his plan. And the thing is, though, it's one thing to have a plan, it's another thing to execute it. And he knows he can't do it alone. So Booth gets some help from some people, and they all meet at the Washington boarding house, which is owned by this woman called Mary Surratt. Now, that last name, Surratt, I want you to keep that last name in the back of your head, okay, because it's going to play a role later on. So she has a son, John Surratt Jr., and he is a Confederacy courier, meaning he can smuggle things through land, quite easily. Letters, weapons, foods, people, things like that. So he can smuggle things, okay? Now, Booth is like, well, I got a courier, I got a smuggler, that's cool, but I need some people who have my back. Some people I know they won't throw the rat on me if something happens. People I really trust. And there's two guys. One of them is Samuel Arnold, and the other guy is Michael O'Laughlin. Both these guys have known Booth since they were kids, and he knows I trust these guys with my heart and with my life and my soul. These guys will be there for me no matter what. Okay. The next guy he picks up is not just another smuggler. He's actually one of the best. His name is George Ozerat, and he could run blockades with supplies. So not just on land, but in water. Lakes, rivers, oceans, didn't matter. He can get things smuggled through. Food, ammunition, guns, people, whatever. So he was a great smuggler. Now, this guy you see in that picture right there, that is Lewis Thornton Powell. Now, what makes him so special? Well, for one thing, you probably can't tell from that picture, but he is actually very fit. He's tall, he's strong, he's pretty thin, as you can see, but he is actually very, very, very strong. And on top of that, he's actually a trained killer. Not only can he kill people with a gun from a distance, but his specialty is close-to-close combat. hand to hand with the knife and things like that. Okay. And the last guy is Dr. Samuel Mudd. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't trust a doctor with the last name Mudd. But the thing is, he too, like Booth, is a Southern sympathizer. And here's the thing. He's like an older doctor guy, and the people who live in that area, they love and respect him. So he is a integral part of that community. And this helps him out later on in the future. So here, really quickly, is a picture of all the people, their numbers, is with their names, so you can see them. The only person not pictured is Dr. Samuel Mudd. So here's the plan. Lincoln is supposed to go to this play called Still Waters Run Deep. Okay. From where the White House is over here, the play is over here. And in between, there's like a meadow, forest area, type of place. And Booth basically says this area between is where we're going to kidnap him. Okay. We're going to basically intercept him. Okay. Intercept the carriage on its way to the play. Then when we kidnap him, then we'll make the ransom demands and things like that. So they're like, yeah, that sounds good. All right, let's do it. And they're getting ready. They're ready. Here comes the day. Here comes the hour. Lincoln carriage doesn't go through. And they're like, where's Lincoln? Lincoln is famous for changing his mind last minute, last second even. And that's what happens here. Lincoln was going to go to the play, but then he's like, you know what? The 140th Indiana Regiment, they're about to leave. These guys are about to go off to war. You know, I'm going to go over there and talk to them. He did this so many times. He was going to go here, but then he hears, oh, there's a battle going on. I need to go to the telegraph office and see what's going on and things like that. So he changed his plans all the time. And he did the same thing here. Now, Booth is like, okay, all right, I got another plan. See that building right there? That's Ford's Theater. He's like, I know that place like the back of my hand. I've played in that theater so many times. I know the background. I know the backstage area. I know where where Lincoln's going to be at during the play. So here's my plan. He's going to be in the balcony, which is in the second floor. We will go there. We'll kidnap him, take him to the back, and then slip out the back door with the president. Here's the problem. The balcony, the only way to get out of the balcony is through that same staircase area. And then to get to the back, you would have to go right along the side of the theater where people can see you. And if you can't realize it from this picture, Ford's Theater's in the middle of town. There's buildings all around. So, and here's another thing too. Lincoln is 6'4". They're about 5'8", maybe 5'9". And how are they going to carry the president like Scooby-Doo, doing tiptoe things with a 6'4" man and carrying him through the middle of town? What kind of plan is that? And that's exactly what the Booth's conspirator guys were like doing. They're like, that's a stupid plan. That's horrible. It will never happen. They'll catch us. You know what? No. That plan sucks. Let us know when you think of something else. And they kind of all leave for a bit. And Booth he's upset, but also too, he's like, yeah, that is a stupid plan. But, dang it. Now, Booth hears the news about Lee surrendering to Grant at the Battle of Appomattox, or at the Appomattox Courthouse. And the thing is, the 13th Amendment, which outlaws slavery, it has been passed. It's on the verge of being ratified. And Lincoln goes out to the balcony to give a little speech. And it's there that he says something no president said at that time. He tells this crowd of people he believes some black people should have the right to vote. He said the people who are the African Americans who are intelligent, who've gone to school, things like that, those who fought in the war, those men should be allowed to vote. Now, some people were just like, oh my God, did the president just say black people should be allowed to vote? Yeah, I think no. He said some black people, the educated and the ones who fought. Now, Booth is in the crowd, and all he heard was basically black people voting. And that drove him over the edge. That is what clicked in his head to go from, instead of kidnapping the president, we need to kill him. Okay? Now, here's the thing, too. You kill the president, the vice president will take over. You kill the vice president, the speaker of the secretary of state takes over. Speaker of the House. There's a succession. There's a line. So Booth goes, you know what? We're going to have to cut off the head of this snake. You cut off the head, the body will wither. The body will die without the head. So he says, not only do we have to kill Lincoln, we have to kill Vice President Johnson. We have to kill Secretary of State Seward. We're going to probably have to go after Grant too. And here's the thing. We can't just attack one person and then the other and then the other. Because if we attack one person, then the security is going to be up the wazoo on this next person and next person and next person. We need to hit them all at the same time. Booth's conspirators, all the other guys are like, yeah, you're right. And Booth says, guys, I got Lincoln. Now, this is the part in class where I would have you guys stop taking notes and watch as I basically ask for volunteers and go over this whole section. Okay, so you don't really have to write any notes, but I would like you to listen to this part because, again, this is a step-by-step of what happened to Lincoln. How did Booth get so close to him to kill him? Okay, so Lincoln and his wife want to go see this play called Our American Cousin. And they invite the Vice President, Secretary of State Seward, General Grant, Major Rathbone and his fiance. The Vice President's like, you know what? I can't go. I'm gonna call it early that day. Secretary of State Seward was just in a carriage accident, and he was in a metal brace. So imagine this metal thing covering your shoulders, going right along your neck, and you can't move. You're like this, moving around. You can't move your neck out at all. That's what happened to Secretary of State Seward. And General Grant was like, you know what? Me and my wife, we can't go. Sorry. So the only people who said, yeah, we'll go with you is Major Rathbone and his fiancée, Clara Harris. Now, again, the conspirators all have a person they're assigned to. Booth has Lincoln. Powell and Harold has Secretary of State Seward. Alzerat has Johnson, and someone else has General Grant. We're going to be talking about what happens to them in the next lesson. So, here's what happens. Around 10:15, Booth goes into Ford's Theater, and he's going towards the presidential box, and he runs into a aide, one of Lincoln's, aide people who help him out, and the guy's like, "Can I help you?" And he tells him, "Oh yeah, I need to get back here because I'm part of the play. I'm an actor, and I need to get back here. It's part of the play." And the aide looks at him and goes, your booth. Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, go ahead. Now, here's the thing I get asked all the time by students. Where was the Secret Service? Here's the thing. The Secret Service was around at that time, but their job wasn't to protect the president. Their job was to catch counterfeiters, people who made fake money. And that's honestly, no joke, that's still their job to this very day. They do protect the president, but they also catch counterfeiters, people who make fake money. Okay, so that is the two jobs of the Secret Service. All right. So Booth goes to the presidential box, and he's waiting. Right? He sees Lincoln, he sees Major Rathbone, he sees him there, and he's waiting because he knows at a certain point the people are going to be cheering, laughing, the orchestra is going to be playing the music, things like that, and it's going to get really loud. So he gets close to Lincoln, and he's like about 4 feet behind him, and he aims his gun, and right when, boom, the part comes, people are laughing, the orchestra is playing a little part of music, he shoots him. Now, here's the thing. Some people say that he said revenge for the South or freedom, but not everyone agrees that he even said anything at this point. Okay. Now, Major Rathbone hears and sees the smoke from the gun, and he turns and he lunges towards Booth, and they're fighting for a bit. Booth has a dagger right along his side, so he pulls it out and slashes Major Rathbone right on the forearm. Okay. Now, if you look at this picture of the balcony, right there, Booth jumps on the flag area and he's about to jump off. Major Rathbone's able to barely grab a piece of him to hold him back just enough to where Booth's spurs gets caught on the flag. Instead of landing boom like on the stage like flat-footed, he falls kind of funky, and when he hits the stage ground, his shin bone snaps. Now, if you don't know where your shin bone is, if you put your foot like this, like here's my hand, let's say this is your foot, this is your leg, the front part of your leg, you'll feel a bone right in the front. That's your shin. Imagine that being snapped in two. That's what happened to Booth when he hit that stage all funky. And when he looks at the crowd, he says, "Sic semper tyrannis," and he storms off. Sic semper tyrannis is Latin for thus always to tyrants or traitors. Okay, tyrannus could be, tyrant or traitor, whichever way you want to go to. And he rushes in the back where there's a horse waiting for him, and he starts riding off. Now, the crowd is like, okay, this is the part where your notes now come back, okay? The crowd is like, was that supposed to be part of the play? What the hell was that? And then all of a sudden, Mary Todd screams. Now, everything I've read about this part, to say the scream, people said it like brought a chill down their spine. It was one of those horrific screams that you don't forget. Now, a man was in the crowd named Charles Leal. He was about 23 years old. He was a physician guy who was in the military, and he goes and runs up to check on Lincoln, and he sees he's bleeding from the back of his head. So he gets a cloth and he puts it back there. Soldiers start charging up into the booth, and they see Lincoln, and he tells them, "We need to get him out of here." So the soldiers pick up Lincoln, and they're going down the steps. Outside the theater, people are storming out. And other people who weren't in the theater are seeing all this commotion there, so they're coming closer, and they're like, "What's happened? What happened?" And they're like, "Oh my God, we heard a gunshot. We saw this guy jump off the balcony. We think the president might be something happened to the president. Oh my God, we don't know." And then all of a sudden, they look, and there's Lincoln being carried out, and people are screaming. People are just wanting to see what's happened. And so they're kind of crowding, and so the soldiers are like, "Make way, make way." This guy across the street at the boarding house, He's like, come over here, bring him here, bring him here. Now, they take him inside, they put him on the bed, but here's the problem. The bed is fit for an average man at that time. Okay, so the bed is about like 6 feet in length. Lincoln, again, is 6'4". So they had to put him at a diagonal, way so he can like lay down. When this happens, they're able to get a doctor. The doctor comes in. He's poking through Lincoln in the back of his head, and he realizes, yeah, there's a big old hole here. And he's like using his finger. Now you have to remember, germs were not thought of. Germs were not invented yet. Germs were not, a concept. So this doctor has this nasty finger, and he's digging through. And from my understanding, too, I think he either touched the blood clot or removed the blood clot with his finger. And he's basically like, oh, damn. Because Lincoln is breathing hard. He's in laboring pain, just, just wincing, breathing, and stuff like that. The bullet is lodged behind his right eye. So imagine if you ever had a headache and you're like, oh my God, the middle of my head hurts. Imagine something like that, but it's a bullet. And the surgeon's like, I can't take it out. The bullet has already mushroomed, meaning that there's sharp edges on the side. And if they pull it, they might cut a blood vessel, might cut through some tissue. The president will be in extreme pain. And it might kill him if we take it out. And if we leave it in, he's going to die anyway. So there's nothing we could do. So what they told everyone, anyone who needs to say goodbye to him, bring him in now. So Lincoln's son came over. His cabinet people came over. And they basically surrounded his bed, and they kind of folded his legs in so he could like lay down comfortably. And at 7:22 on April 15th, 1865, Lincoln is pronounced dead. He was only 56 years old. Now, famously, Secretary of War Stanton says he now belongs to the ages. Some people said he belongs to the angels, but a lot of historians, a lot of people who were there said that Stanton said ages. Now, this picture, I say pictures, the one you see to the left there, that's a picture of Lincoln before he became president. The one you see on the right is the last picture they have of Lincoln. And as you can see, in just 4 years, look how old he looks. That's just 4 years. You can really see the difference between the two. And that's what the presidency does to people. It ages them dramatically. So Lincoln is like the best example of that. Now, here is the gun that Booth used on Lincoln. That gun you see up on top there, that is a 41 caliber Derringer. So it's .4 or .41 caliber. And the gun is called a Derringer. Excuse me. If you take your palm, that gun is about the size of your hand. It's very small, tiny gun, easy to conceal, stuff like that. That bullet you see right there, that is the bullet that was lodged behind Lincoln's eye. And if you take a really good look at it, you can see how smooth the bullet is. Because again, when the bullet hit, it kind of basically like mushroomed, and the little shards of metal are on the edges. And that is the dagger that Booth used to slash Major Rathbone. All right, so here's my question to you. Remember, Lincoln won his election. He was going to be president for another 4 years. So my question is this: if he had lived, he'd never been assassinated, he does his second term, Do you think he would have ran another term? Because remember, people love him. People loved him. Do you think he would have ran a third term? Or do you think he'd have been like, you know what? Nah, I'm done. I did my time. I helped out this country through the worst of times. I'm just, yeah, we're over. So what do you think? What do you think Lincoln probably would have done? Continued on as much as he could, as long as the people wanted to vote for him? Or do you think he would have said, you know what? I'm done. I did my part. You know, what do you think? Okay. So once you answer this question, you're done with this lesson. I didn't expect this video to be so long, but again, in class, I act out the whole thing. So yeah, sorry you couldn't be there. Okay. So with that being said, you guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.